Hi, I'm Ray, and this is Signing for Kids. Today, we're going to sign one of my favorite storybooks that is a favorite for bedtime, and this is it. Goodnight, Moon by Margaret Wise Brown, and the pictures are by Clement Hurd. I know that this is a favorite of a lot of kids, and they beg for it for story time. So I want to show you the key words in sign language so you can interact with them a little bit more as they go to bed or just during the day, whenever you want. Okay, so this is Belle, my daughter. Say hi, Belle.
Hi.
As she's gonna hold the storybook for us today. Are you ready, Belle?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna show you first the words in the book, and then we'll go back through and read the whole book. For the very first word I'm gonna show you, of course, is good night. So how you sign good night is you take your hand, this palm right here, and place it on your chin. Now you're gonna take that and set it into your other hand like that. That is the sign for good. How good is that, right? Good. Now for night, we're gonna take this hand and go over our other hand. So this is a reference point, and I want you to think of the sun going down at night. So that's the sign for night. So slowly I'm gonna show you good night. Let me show you that one again because we repeat this word over and over again in the book. Good night. Okay, so moon, let me show you moon. Moon, you make a C like this, and I want you to pretend you're looking through a telescope like this up into the sky, all right? So take that C now and push that moon up into the sky. See how I'm doing that? So good night, moon. Good night, moon. See how easy that is? Let's go ahead and start showing you the words in this book. And turn the page, Belle. All right, so in the great green room, we're gonna just make sure we have a big room like this. So in the great, now green, you're gonna take your index finger and your thumb. This is the letter G in sign language, and you're just gonna shake that like that. So in the great green, now room, you're just gonna make a box with your hands. Just two hands like this, make a box. So great green room. Very good. There's a telephone. Of course, your sign is gonna be like this, like you're picking up an old telephone, and a red balloon. Take your index finger, you're gonna swipe it down your big, beautiful red lips. That's the sign for red. Now balloon, pretend you're gonna blow a balloon. See how I did that, Belle? Blow up the balloon. Okay, Isabel, this is how we do cow jumping over the moon. And there's a picture of a cow. So the cow, you're gonna take your thumb and put it by your forehead like this, and that's his horns. Do you see how that's his horns? Just dip it forward like a cow would dip his head forward. That's a cow. A cow jumping over the moon. Now I showed you how to do moon, right? But jumping, you're gonna pretend that these are the cow's legs, and he's gonna jump in the direction of that moon. See how I did that? Jump over the moon. So you're gonna say cow jumping over the moon. Push that moon up into the sky. Okay, what's next here? Oh, and there were three little bears sitting on chairs. So for three, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3. Make sure your hands are that way. Three little bears. Now remember bears, I do claws like this for a bear. Grrr, and you're gonna put them on your shoulders and you're gonna swipe it down like this. Bears. So three little bears sitting on chairs. Now I'm gonna show you how I learned how to do sit. So sit, you take two fingers like this and two fingers on this side. Forget about my crooked finger, and you're gonna sit down once. But chairs, you're gonna pick it up. You tap it twice. In this story, however, I'm going to do it this way. Three little bears sitting on chairs. Did you see how I just moved that all together? So I'm gonna take my two fingers, I'm gonna sit down, and then I'm gonna move over three chairs. Sitting on chairs. Three little bears sitting on chairs. Okay, next page. And there were two little kittens. See my whiskers? 2 little kittens, and a pair of mittens. Just pretend to put on some mittens like that. And a little toy house, just like that. Here's the roof, and a little toy house, and a young mouse. Just take your index finger and brush it on your nose a couple of times like that. And a little toy house and a young mouse. Now, and a comb and a brush, I'm going to separate those 2 words, and I'm going to take my hand and make it into a comb. And a comb, and now I'm going to hold on to a brush, and a brush, and a bowl full of mush. Just make yourself a cereal bowl here, and your 2 fingers are going to be a spoon, and a bowl full of mush, just like you're eating your mush. Okay, oh, my favorite. And a quiet old lady who was whispering, hush. So quiet, just silence the room. Take your hand up, and this one up, and go quiet. Old lady who was whispering, hush. And that's all I'm going to do on that sign. If you really want, you could say old lady, but I'm not going to really do that in this book. I'm just going to say quiet old lady who was whispering, hush. Okay, so here we go for good night. Good night. So good night. Now here's that room. Okay, next part. Okay, so it's good night cow, good night moon. Go ahead and do the moon. Good night moon. Now let's do good night cow. Good night cow, right? Get that cow in there. All right, jumping over the moon, right? Our cow's jumping over the moon. So here you have a light, the lamp. And it's really fun when you go through the book, you can start pointing to the things that you're going to say goodnight to. So for the goodnight light, again, you're going to say good night. Now light is you're just going to, like you're going to flick something, flick your chin like this. So good night light. And here's the red balloon and the red balloon. Okay, good night bears. Turn the page. Oh, we're on kittens. Sorry. Good night, kittens. Good night, mittens. What do we have here? Oh, good night, clocks. Good night, clocks. Good night, socks. So let me show you how I did that real quick. So clocks, I'm just going to point to the time, okay? Like you have a wristwatch on. So good night, clocks. Good night, socks. Your 2 fingers are going to go down like this. So they're going to brush against each other. Do you see how I did that? Okay. Good night, little house. Good night, mouse. Good night, comb. Good night, brush. Good night, nobody. I'm going to make 2 zeros and do this. Good night, mush. Where's that? Yep. And good night to the little old lady whispering, hush. Now stars, right here, you have all these stars. Those 2 fingers, you're going to brush up in the sky. So they're going to brush up in the upward direction, up in the sky. So good night, stars. Good night, air. You're just going to make the air around you. Now, good night noises everywhere. We're going to do this way. Good night. Point to your ears and make that noise everywhere. Make it go all around. That's good night, moon. Okay, let's quickly go through the whole book now. Are you ready, Isabel? Okay. Make sure I can kind of see the words too. Make sure we're doing that together, right? All right, so good night, moon. In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of the cow jumping over the moon. And there were 3 little bears sitting on chairs. And there were 2 little kittens and a pair of mittens, and a little toy house, and a young mouse. Ah, and a comb, and a brush, and a bowl full of mush, and a quiet old lady who is whispering, hush. Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light and the red balloon. Good night, kittens. Good night, mittens. Go ahead and change it. Good night, clocks. Good night, socks. Good night, little house. Good night, mouse. Good night, comb. Good night, brush. Good night, nobody. Good night, mush. Good night to the quiet old lady whispering, hush. Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere. Okay, thank you for joining me for our Good Night, Moon, and this has been Signing for Kids. I hope that you can join us next time for our next story, and if you liked it, please make sure that you smash that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Say thanks, Belle.
Thank you.